Hello, everybody. How are you doing on today? I certainly hope that each of you is doing just fine. I'm doing fine too. Enjoying this nice, cool weather we're having. And as we progress further into the month of October, I believe that we are going to experience even more of this great and wonderful autumn-like weather. And I'm glad it's autumn too. And I know that all of you are as well because we've had so much heat. Summer, I mean, it's like we've had an extended summer. Summer didn't want to turn loose. But finally, we've made it to autumn. And I am truly grateful for that. And I'm also grateful for the fact that you decided to tune in to me once again. And I really do appreciate that. Thank you so very much. And I certainly want to welcome all of you to another episode of TJ's Topics. And you know who that is. TJ is me. Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I wasn't going to come on today, but after receiving a bit of inspiration, I decided to go ahead and put something together. You know, anytime you're inspired at any given moment, it's good to act on it because chances are, if you put it off, you might end up forgetting it later on, and you'll never be able to retrieve the information or the inspiration that you had at first. It'll be lost forever. And who wants that? Because you never know what type of inspiration or information you may have gotten that could have helped someone else. And so that's why it's always good to go ahead and try to act upon any form of inspiration or, jot down any little bit of information that you get because it is vital to all of us, in one way or another. It's vital that we do so. So I wanted to come on for just a little short time today to talk about the thing that did come to me while I was at the gym today. And of course, if you're watching this on Monday, then I was at the gym on Sunday. And so that's when this came to me. And I thought, you know what, I may need to go ahead on and do a little show right quick because, I wasn't going to do one, but you just never know what people are dealing with. And since I'm fortunate enough to have reached a milestone with my YouTube channel, I finally made it above 100 subscribers. I I think that it's probably good if I keep up the pace, and try to release something on a regular basis. And so today is no exception. And my topic for today is life is too short to be bitter for too long. That's what I'm thinking about right now. Life is too short to be bitter for too long. Now, tell me this. Do y'all know anybody out there who is bitter about something? Do you know anybody who is upset over a particular thing that happened to them, whether it was recently or it's been years or even decades ago? Well, I know people like that, and I have known people like that. In fact, I've known some people who have since crossed over, who were very bitter. And, it bothers me to see them like that. But, it's a lot of people in the world who, for some reason or another, are just extremely bitter and up. They're angry, and they're it's like they're mad with everybody over the least little thing. Now, we know that people ought not mistreat one another. We know that people shouldn't just blurt out any old thing to anybody, because what may tickle one person may tick off somebody else. So that's why we have to be mindful not to, say just anything to anybody, because you don't know what people are dealing with already. None of us do. There are so many people out here who are going through things in their lives on a personal and professional, emotional, mental, spiritual, and a financial level. And that's why, we really have to tread lightly when it comes to interacting with individuals, because nobody's the same. Everybody is different. Now, like I said, life is very short. We're not here but for a moment. And, that moment, it passes just like that. Now, before I get into my little discussion, let me ask you this. If you knew that you only had a short amount of time left on this earth, let's just throw out a number. 5 years. If you knew that you only had 5 years left to live, would you spend those final 5 years of your life being mad at folk and being pissed off and full of rage and wanting to fly off the handle at any given moment, jumping down people's throat every chance you get, acting like you want to knock them upside the head and run over them in your car? And I mean, is that the way to be if you only have a short amount of time left to be alive? In my opinion, that's not the way to be, And I think that if we had a way of knowing exactly how much longer we had before we exit this plane, we would not stress out so much over things. We wouldn't allow people to upset us so much. We wouldn't cause so much grief and so much, trouble in other folks' lives, and, trying to break up somebody's home, as the late blues legend Albert King said. I feel like breaking up somebody's home. and we just wouldn't do that kind of stuff. Coming in between folks' relationships and throwing people under the bus and stuff like that. I just don't think we would do those type of things if we knew exactly how much longer we had, and the amount of time that we had left on this earth was relatively short. But I've been around a lot of people over the years whom I have been able to discern that their time was running out. I didn't know exactly how much longer they had in terms of days, weeks, or months, or even years for that matter. But I could sense it. I felt it deep within, and I could almost see it, the aura that surrounded them. I could, we all give off a different vibration. And the type of vibration we give off tells a lot about us and who we are. Our vibration reveals a lot to others about what's going on within us. And so when it comes to how we deal with folk, it's very important that we be extra careful because, we're living in a time now where people just don't take jokes like they used to. You used to play the dozens and and stuff like that. And your mama so big and your mama this and your but people are not doing that now. So that's why you really have to be mindful of the kind of jokes you tell about anybody and whatever those jokes are pertaining to people. Gone are the days of Fred Sanford and Archie Bunker and James Evans on Good Times and Mr. Bookman and all them folk. Rerun and all them on What's Happening. That time is gone. We can't, the kind of stuff that they said and got away with, we can't do that now because people be ready to slice your head off. So that's what I'm talking about. Life is too short to be bitter for too long. Now, let me ask you a question. What is bitterness? It's pretty self-explanatory, but for those of you who may not know the accurate definition of bitterness, let's just see what it is. Bitterness is anger and disappointment at being treated unfairly. And of course, when you're bitter, you have resentment towards a lot of folks. I often think back to my late sperm donor, my biological father. He was extremely bitter about a number of things that happened in his life, from jobs to relationships to lack of money and lack of good health. But I look back and I think about the fact that, he could have done better for himself if he had ever wanted to. He could have found a new job. Well, one thing, he could have finished high school, and that's where he failed at starting out. He dropped out of high school, I want to say around about the 9th or 10th grade. He had the opportunity to finish school, but he quit. And I just don't understand why he would have done that. So that was his own fault right there. And he worked on various jobs, but he finally landed one job that he remained on for 40 years. And he said that they weren't paying enough money. Well, he could have done better, but he just chose not to. So, but hey, it is what it is. People who harbor bitterness feel that they have been hurt severely, misused, and abused by others. Whenever bitter people are hurt, rarely do they deal with the problem, but instead, they keep their feelings bottled up, dwelling on it over and over and over again. That's what bitter people tend to do. And if you've ever been surrounded by those who are trapped in bitterness, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what they are like because you have witnessed it for yourself. It's hard to deal with a bitter person. And take it from me, I have worked around a number of bitter people over the years. I think on pretty much every job I've ever worked on, there was at least one person, male or female, black or white, young or old, who was bitter. Why they were bitter, I don't know. I mean, yes, they experienced a certain level of trauma and certain mishaps, and they've had their share of disappointments and stuff. They went through all of that, as we all do in this world. But they just weren't able to, as Taylor Swift said, shake it off. they just didn't know how to properly cope with their situations. You know, they felt like it was always somebody else's fault for what they were dealing with. But, sometimes we have to learn how to look at ourselves. We got to, like Michael Jackson said, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. That's what we have to do sometimes. Because sometimes we bring these things upon ourselves. That's why I don't understand why the church has this thing where they always want to blame the devil for whatever it is that happens in their lives. Everything. I don't care if it's a run in their stockings, or if light bill went a little bit higher than this month than last month, or if they ran out of gas, or if the doctor told them something that wasn't so pleasant, or anything like that, they'll blame it on the devil. But I'm to the point now where I don't blame the devil for anything that happens. I mean, it's just life. And besides, since I let go of my belief in a literal devil, I've just learned to go with the flow, try to make good with life itself and the things that I deal with. Try to make the best of any situation, however I can. And I think that would be a good thing if everyone did that, instead of blaming some external being that most likely doesn't exist. I think we'd be better off if we just turned and looked at ourselves. We would be so much better off for that. Now, there are 11 signs of a bitter person, and you may be familiar with a few of them, if not all of them. Number one, they hold grudges. They tend to be, the type that never forgives anyone for whatever it was that was said or done to them. They just want to keep on nursing it and rehearsing it. Meanwhile, those people who may have hurt them in one way or another have moved on with their lives, and they are doing just fine. Not even worried about them at all, and don't even know that after all this time that has passed, that person is still upset with them, because those people sleep good at night. They're not losing sleep, but that individual is. How unfortunate is that? Number two, they rarely see the good in things. They carry such a negative energy about themselves. And I'm sure that if you've ever been around somebody like that, immediately upon them entering the room, you picked up this bad vibe, and you wanted to figure out where this negative energy was coming from when everything was so positive, and the atmosphere was so light and airy when you first got there. And now all of a sudden it's becoming dark, and you feel these sort of gloomy and sort of weird emotions coming over you. It's coming from that individual who has that negative energy surrounding them. They're very bitter. Number 3, they tend to be ungrateful. They're not appreciative of anything that anyone does for them. And they're not appreciative for life being as well as it is. Nothing is ever good enough for them. They always have a problem with everything and everybody. But what they often fail to realize is all of the problems that they find in others are pretty much the same problems that lie within themselves. And yet they fail to see it. Number 4, they can't stand to see people experience positivity. Because there's nothing positive going on in their life. When they see aspects of positivity taking place in the life of somebody else, they don't know how to react to that. In fact, if and when they do react, it's always in a negative manner, never positive. They may make some kind of old snide remark towards those people. You think you something because you done bought you a new car. You think you something because you done went out there and you done got you a house, and you finna get married and all that. All that kind of stuff. Who wants to be around folk like that? Certainly not me. Number 5, they act out so others will show concern. It's often said that misery loves company. And that's true. As long as they can keep a crowd around them, even if it's just a handful or just one person, they're fine, because, they can pour out all of their frustrations on this other person or these other people. And those people, they feel sorry for them, want to show compassion to them and stuff. But they're not really looking for compassion. What they're looking for is confirmation. That confirmation being that it's all right for them to wallow in self-pity and feel bad about the way life is going for them, and how the world seems to be coming down so hard on them and stuff. It's all right for them to feel that way. And they're justified in that. All because of the little audience that they have. That makes them feel good. Number 6, they lack accountability. They don't want to hold themselves accountable for the things that are taking place in their life. They think it's always somebody else's fault. They want to accuse others of the things that are going on, never taking a look at themselves and realizing that perhaps they are the cause of their own misery and own suffering. They don't want to see that. And that's sort of like a narcissist person. It's always somebody else's fault. Narcissists never see faults in themselves, but they can point out the faults in everybody else. And so it is with someone who's bitter. They're both one and the same. Number 7, they spread rumors. They'll tell lies. They like to stir up trouble. They like to keep mess going. They're not satisfied with everybody experiencing peace and joy and gladness and excitement. in their lives. They want to keep stuff. They always got to have something going on, you know, to make folk mad, have you all jittery and upset and keep you pissed off and stuff. That's how they do. It's ridiculous. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And why would anybody want to waste their precious time being that way? It beats all I've ever seen. Number 8, they are extremely cynical. They're always thinking that everyone's out to get them. You know, they think that there's always a boogeyman out there, a werewolf or something. Always some kind of enemy. And this goes back to what they talk about in church. They're always talking about the enemy. You know, when the enemy rises up to, you know, come against you, they'll use the scripture, you know, when the enemy comes in like a flood. All that kind of stuff. Now, who is that enemy? Well, they'll take it as meaning Satan or the devil. Always something external that's causing their problems, when the real problem lies within. It's nothing external, but rather it's internal, because it's something going on the inside of them that they have yet to face, and they don't know how to deal with it. Therefore, they have to blame somebody or something on the outside instead of taking responsibility for their own actions or lack thereof. Number 9, they're always complaining. Oh yeah, I can't stand to be around folk like that. You know, never appreciative, never grateful for anything. Always finding something wrong. I mean, man, I can't stand to be around folk like that. I just want to get up and leave. And there have been times when I've done that too. And if I was on the phone with somebody who did that, all that complaining, I was ready to get off the phone, and I would silently hang up. Man. Number 10, they never look for positive solutions. And why not? Because they don't have anything positive going on in their life. So how can they look for any type of solution to their problems? What they're looking for, they're looking for someone who's gonna baby them and, you know, cause them to just, you know, come and pat them on, or there, everything is gonna be all right. Don't worry about it. We know you're going through, and we all going through something, but I promise you, it'll get better. Just hold on. See, that's what they're looking for. But they don't have the as they said, get up and go, or the self-motivation to get up and try to do something to change the situation. And if they do that, then that'll change the outcome, and their life will start to improve. And finally, number 11, they always feel powerless. They feel like they just simply can't go on. How in the world are they going to make it from one day to the next? You know, the whole world is against them. They're mad. And they simply do not know how to handle their frustration. So let me ask you, are you in that situation right now? Are you experiencing any form of bitterness in your life? Or are you acquainted with someone who may be experiencing bitterness in their life? Well, if you know someone who is bitter and has been bitter for a long time, I want you to share this message with them, if you will, and tell them that life is too short to be bitter for too long. It really is. Because at the moment when they close their eyes, everything and everybody that they were ever bitter about will be left behind, and they will be on the other side. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. This has been another episode of TJ's Topics. And trust me when I tell you that I do not intend to walk around in a state of bitterness, because life is much too short for that. And I hope you don't either. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and share with whoever. And I appreciate it. This is Taryn Jerome Harris, reminding you that every round goes higher and higher. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.